Hey folks, Rod here. Welcome back on The Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ Stocks, crypto assets, news and interviews. It is Monday, June 1st, brand new month, and hope you had a great weekend. Happy Monday, as happy as you can be on a day like today. The reverse split train continues. So it started off with Curaleaf. Now we have today Verano and Vireo announcing reverse splits as well, and they might not be the last. And a lot of people, especially the MSO maxis today, eating their piece of humble pie. And this is something I've been warning for many, many years. A lot of these MSOs are going to go through a lot of the same issues that the Canadian LPs had, and that's exactly what we're seeing in price compression, whether it's a reverse split, etc. Right? So we have to be humble and can't lose sight of the fact of what we learned. And just imagine if the S&P 500 were to see a weekly higher low in consolidation, which is extremely due at this point, we could easily see a lot of other names follow suit. You know, you got Glasshouse, Trulieve, Green Thumb, very well positioned that they might not have to do a reverse split in order to uplist come time. But again, anything can happen and not set up well if SPY were to see any meaningful correction. And just imagine it entered a multi-year bear market, right? So you have to be prepared for all scenarios. But yeah, today's video, a true salute to the not the Bitcoin, but the MSO maxis. I got Bitcoin maxis on the brain because they're so toxic. We'll jump right to it. Before we do, make sure to smash the like. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff. You'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. And as always, this isn't financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. And you can follow us on X. The handle there is @GroupPow. So like I said, Curaleaf started the reverse split train and trend. Curaleaf announced a 1-for-3 reverse stock split in preparation for U.S. stock exchange uplisting. So they're looking at sometime in Q3, potentially Q4 for uplisting. Like best case scenario, it might not happen then, but that's what they're expecting. And I believe Boris Jordan because he's very well connected politically, and he's usually spot on. So essentially, a lot of people are wondering, well, why are you doing it now? Why not wait for the share price to rise organically? Rescheduling is coming. Shouldn't it rise organically? What's the issue here? Well, it's not so much just the price at what it is on any given day. They have to be at a certain price for X amount of days. It's usually 90 days. So it's a plan B, just in case the price doesn't get there organically, but also the fact that they need to have that 90-day period under their belt. So in my opinion, it's more to do with that than it is just the price itself. But again, it's a plan B just in case they don't want to miss uplisting. And Curaleaf said they want to be one of the first. They were one of the first to uplist to the TSX, so the Toronto Stock Exchange. TerraSent first, and that was Curaleaf. And I wouldn't be surprised if Curaleaf was one of the first to uplist to the NASDAQ or U.S. Major Exchange, NYSE. Most are on the NASDAQ, but this was the latest one. Verano announces a 1-for-5 reverse stock split to prepare for prospective U.S. stock listing. So again, this isn't a bad, I know what people are going to say. The reverse stock split's always bad. I know it has a negative connotation. If we could avoid it, great. But there are times where it makes sense, and this is one of those times, in my opinion. The reverse stock split builds on prior strategic initiatives the company has executed to prepare for future growth in U.S. capital market opportunities. And, at least it's not an Aurora. It's already done 2 reverse stock splits, but, anything's possible. We could even see 2 reverse stock splits for some of these companies in the U.S., right? These MSOs. So again, humble pie being eaten here today, and let me know how it tastes, because if you're an MSO maxi, I'm sorry, careful what you wish for, but when you're ragging on the LPs, saying that, they're garbage, they do reverse splits, well, you have to think, why did they do reverse splits? Because they're on U.S. major exchanges. Why is there no company in the U.S. doing reverse splits? Because they're not on U.S. major exchanges. Pretty easy stuff, right? Pretty simple stuff. And then Vireo Growth announced share consolidation. The company's expected consolidation will be at a ratio of 30-for-1. So that one, really, really huge. I don't know why Verano would do a 1-for-5 and why Curaleaf would do a 1-for-3. If I was going to do a reverse split, I'd do at least a 1-for-10 to make sure that I had a nice cushion in case there was any kind of share price. Just imagine if SPY entered, heavy weekly consolidation and pulled back healthy to 700 or 650 or something like that, right? Or imagine it enter a multi-year bear market here, which I think is very possible. And a lot of people are wondering, well, how is that going to affect MJ stocks? Well, if SPY were to crater, 5% or 10% in a day or a couple of days or a week or so, that's not going to be good for MJ, but I think MJ would recover well because it is best positioned, in my opinion, for catalysts and growth ahead, and it hasn't participated in the everything bubble. So, I don't know why they wouldn't just do a 1-for-10 and be done with it. Like I said, the Aurora, they were in trouble. They did a 1 for 12, and then they had to do another 1 for 10. So why not just do a 1 for 10 or even a 1 for 20? I'm not sure a 30 is necessary. But if we take a look at the chart here today, Verano was down from the high of the day Friday to the low of the day today. It was down about 7.5%. Yeah, Vireo is sitting at 58 cents. So, they really need to do a drastic reverse split. But Verano sitting at 117. Curaleaf was actually up today. It's back up to around $5 here. So overall, not too bad, but pretty mixed bag on the day today. We got some green, we got some red. On average, pretty much a wash here today. But let me know your thoughts and opinions on this. Like I said, they might not be the last. They're certainly not the first. They certainly won't be the last, in my opinion. And we could even see some of these companies do multiple reverse stock splits. A lot of people don't know, but High Tide, Organogram, they did reverse splits as well. And, people never even talk about it. And you see Canara Biotech, they did a reverse split, and their stock's near all-time highs. So it's not always a bad thing if you have a shitload of shares, right? If you got, like, Oxy, for example, they're doing a buyback, same with Curaleaf. They're trying to get their shares down, but, Oxy's got, like, 1.4 billion shares. It'd take them, like, decades to bring that down into a reasonable level. So they're exploring a stock split as well, and they're looking to get shareholder approval in June. And then they would more than likely uplist to a U.S. major exchange as well. So, like I said, it's not just isolated to Canadian companies. Everybody in the sector, eventually, given enough time, will experience a lot of the same issues. And I'm not trying to, be that person that says, I told you so, but I just wanted to, be that person to remind people that whenever you're ragging on certain companies within a sector for doing a reverse stock split or doing dilution or whatever, there's always a concern that this could affect the companies in the US, names that haven't already done so. And this is a pure example of that. And like I said, this probably isn't the end of this trend. And just imagine if the S&P 500 were to see any meaningful correction, they would not be set up well at all. We still got about a month before the hearing even kicks off for rescheduling. And then they're trying to wrap up sometime mid-July. And then there's going to be a descheduling commission. And, there's a lot of work that we have to do still. So we have to be patient. You continue to see crypto, AI, blockchain steal the show. We got SpaceX IPO coming next week on the 12th of June, I believe. And I mentioned that we're probably going to see some space names really start to catch a bid. And SPCE stock today was squeezing hard like you wouldn't believe. I mentioned this thing could rip into the SpaceX IPO. And sure enough, look at this thing. Just over the last week or so, it's up like 270%. So I've been warning my community about this. And SPCE, they did a reverse stock split as well. They did a 1 for 20. Whoops, I clicked the earnings one by accident. So yeah, they did a 1 for 20. But again, that's what I would do. Like if you're down 99.9% and you're going to do a reverse stock split, why not do like a 1 for 20, right? Just get it over with, and then that'll be the end of it. And they should never have to do one. Well, I should never say never. Never say never in this crazy world of finance. The only guarantee is there is no guarantee. But as you can see, we hit a low there of 218, and then we hit another low of 213, so pretty much a double bottom. But we weren't that far off from doing another reverse split, right? So things can change in a hurry, and just a couple months ago, this thing was at 213, and today it had a high of 890. So I mentioned that this could be a name. So if you're only looking at MJ stocks, I get it. A lot of people are passionate about MJ, myself included, but MJ is not a lot of my net worth. Like I don't have a whole lot of money invested into MJ. Most of it's in crypto and other stocks and real estate. And I have a huge cash position, and I've got some SPCE stock, right? So again, just you have to call a spade, look at things realistically, and understand that if it's happening to the Canadian LPs and they were years ahead, well, then there's a good chance that it might affect the US MSOs as well. There's a greater, above average chance that it would. And like I said, Glasshouse is well positioned. Trueleaf, Green Thumb are well positioned to not have to do a reverse split. But like I said, what happens if the S&P 500 starts weekly consolidation over the next week or two, or even the next month? Still going to be another month before the hearing even kicks off on rescheduling. And there could be some, curveballs sent our way along then as well in the sector. We just don't know. So like I said, there's been some attempts to stop rescheduling. We had some attorney generals. We had Sam. That lawsuit got tossed. But, there's not going to be, it's not going to be a smooth ride. It's going to be a bumpy ride. It's going to be a lot of turbulence. And like I said, just imagine if the S&P 500 were to see massive pullback, that would not, even names like Glasshouse and Truly, even Green Thumb might not be so well positioned. So I don't think they're going to have to do a reverse split, but anything's possible. But again, enjoy the humble pie, and let's remember this for future purposes. All right, have a great day. It's Rod here. Thanks again for joining us in the Pursuit of Wealth, and we'll see you on the next one.